Shalom. An interesting question that's been coming up quite often lately is, should believers in Messiah, those who follow Messiah, keep the commandments of the Most High, aka the Torah? Should they obey the governing authorities? And now, it may seem like the obvious answer is yes to most people. However, this seems to keep coming up for whatever reason. I don't know if this is something that's really going on throughout the body. I don't know, but I wrote a little article I wanted to share with you. It'll help me kind of stay on topic here. Lots to say, but to obey or not obey, that is the question. And what I'm saying here is, are we to obey the governing authorities? So I live in America. Should I obey the government? And likewise, where you live. So as of late, the doctrine of rebelling against the governing authorities has taken center stage in some believing circles. On one hand, there's a group who steadfastly support keeping the laws of the land, yet there are others who are convinced that coming out of Babylon refers to ridding oneself of the necessity to keep human mandates. Lastly, there's the majority who should examine this with care. So to obey or not to obey the governments, that is the question. So what exactly are we addressing? As a member of a physical congregation, a local assembly, if you will, or local church, we have seen the effects of anti-government sentiments among the body and have been led to speak on the matter. While most of us disagree with some policies or procedures and other miscellaneous government activities, I am directly speaking about the doctrines that encourage behaviors such as destroying IDs and birth certificates, doctrines like sovereign citizen, although when anyone ever uses that term, they'll always say that's not what I'm saying, but it's doctrines like sovereign citizen which dissuade one from obtaining vehicle registrations or other documentations. So likewise, doctrines that encourage one to somewhat defy local authorities, police, judges, magistrates, and other officials are included in this discussion. Not all share this doctrine unilaterally. However, the general concept is sown in the mind of others that we as believers are above man-made laws because we follow the Torah and therefore do not have to keep them. I have personally witnessed the fruit of these concepts, and none have produced anything of value to the body. Nevertheless, this study will be leaning not on our own understandings, but Scripture alone. Let's put this theory of disobedience to the test. So let's go with the opening word here. We're going to go straight to the letter of Paul here, Romans 13, 1 through 7. It says, "Every person is to be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from Elohim. And those which exist are established by Elohim. Therefore, whoever resists authority has opposed the ordinance of Elohim, and they who have opposed will receive condemnation upon themselves. For rulers are not a cause of fear for good behavior, but for evil. Do you want to have no fear of authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For it is a servant of Elohim to you for good. But if you do what is evil, be afraid. For it does not bear the sword for nothing. For it is a servant of Elohim, an avenger who brings wrath on the one who practices evil. Therefore it is necessary to be in subjection, not only because of wrath, but also for the sake of conscience. For because of this you also pay taxes. For rulers are servants of Elohim, devoting themselves to this very thing. Pay to all what is due to them. Tax to whom tax is due, custom to whom custom, respect to whom respect, honor to whom honor." So praise be to YAHUAH. Paul makes it clear that we are to obey the governing authorities. In fact, Paul makes the distinction that no governing authority is in place without YAHUAH. This is echoed in Revelation when speaking about the kings of the earth. Revelation 17:17 says, "For Elohim has put in their hearts to execute his purpose by having a common purpose and by giving their kingdom to the beast until the words of Elohim will be fulfilled." So ultimately, he's in control. So when sharing this passage within the discussion, those who adhere to an anti-government stance typically interpret Romans 13 as referencing Yahweh's priesthood or rulers or judges within Israel. "But if you do what is evil, be afraid, for it does not bear the sword for nothing, for it is a servant of Elohim." Let's not forget Nebuchadnezzar in Jeremiah 27, 6 through 8 was called his servant. So nevertheless, all matters are established by 2 or 3 witnesses. So let's move on from Romans 13, even though it should be enough to end the debate. So this is from the mouth of Peter, the chief apostle. "But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for Elohim's own possession, so that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who has called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. For you once were not a people, but now you are the people of Elohim. You had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Beloved, I urge you as foreigners and strangers to abstain from fleshly lusts, which wage war against the soul. Keep your behavior excellent among the Gentiles, so that in the thing in which they slander you as evildoers, they may, because of your good deeds, as they observe them, glorify Elohim on the day of visitation. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man, whether as to a king as the one in authority, or as to governors as sent by him for the punishment of evildoers and the praise of those who do right. For such is the will of Elohim, that by doing right you silence the ignorance of foolish people. Act as free people, and do not use your freedom as a covering for evil, but use it as bondservants of Elohim. Honor all people, love the brotherhood, fear Elohim, honor the king. That was 1 Peter 2, 9 through 17. So, it's one of these things. It's like, how can we keep our behavior excellent among the Gentiles if we can't even keep very basic human rules? Again, like identifications, registration cards, getting insurance. And this topic may seem silly to some of you out there. Again, this is something that we've seen time and time again. People come in and try to teach these doctrines to Yah's people. So anyways, Peter is in full agreement with what Paul taught regarding governments. Consider for a moment that Israel, the northern house, and Judah, the southern house, both were sentenced to exile into the nations. Though we may be living in the nations void of laws containing true counsel and righteousness, according to the Torah, this is part of the punishment we must endure until Messiah returns for the final regathering. Vengeance is Yahuah's. He will repay these rulers for their wickedness. See Psalm 82. Until then, we are lower in authority in this world and must be subject to the governing authorities. Psalm 8, 4 through 5. What is man that you think of him, and a son of man that you are concerned about him? Yet you have made him a little lower than the angels, and you crown him with glory and majesty. So let's talk about some examples. Let's look at Daniel in Babylon. Let's take some tips from the righteous man and prophet Daniel. Daniel not only lived in Babylon, but became one of the chief rulers of it. Daniel 2, 48 through 49. Then the king made Daniel a great man, and gave him many great gifts, and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon, and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king. So, the question, maybe answer in the chat or in the comment section. Do you think Daniel walked contrary to the day-to-day civil laws of Babylon, given he was not only a citizen there, but a ruler? So, like, let's say, they didn't have motor vehicles back then, so we can't talk about driver's licenses and registration cards. But what if for the cart that your horse or donkey or whatever pulled, what if they had registration? Do you think Daniel would have gotten registration? Do you think he would have bucked the system and be like, well, I'm a child of the Most High. I keep the Torah of the Most High, which is higher than your laws, so I don't have to keep your laws. And what I'm telling you here is what people are saying. This is what people in Yah's assembly are teaching. They're teaching people to be contrary to the governments. Don't get licenses. State that you're not traveling for commercial purposes, but for private purposes, and therefore you don't have to get. It's a web of really just anti-government sentiments, which the scriptures tells us not to do. So another great concept to glean regarding this subject is weaved within the story of Daniel, Hananiah, Azariah, and Mishael. We must also recognize there has to be a stopping point in obeying the governing authorities. What happens when the government asks us to sin or break one of Yahuah's laws? Thanks to the righteous examples set by Daniel, we know that if a government forbade us to worship Yahuah or to pray to him, we must not obey. Likewise, if we were ever commanded to bow down and worship an idol, we would reject the notion even unto death. Nevertheless, it seems highly likely that Daniel and the three were not of the anti-government mindset with the day-to-day civil laws of Babylon, much like it should be for America or wherever else Yah's people are living today. Acts 5, 28 through 29, saying, Did we not straitly command you that you should not teach in this name? And behold, you have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine, and intend to bring this man's blood upon us? Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, we ought to obey Elohim rather than men. So, when a law of man would cause us to break Yahweh's commandments, we do not follow. So let's look at other righteous examples. Let's search the scriptures for other examples of righteous men of YAHUAH who also understood their place and obligation to do what is right in the sight of YAHUAH and men. Because think about it, if we're just breaking all these simple laws of men, why would anyone be attracted to you as an ambassador of Messiah that you refuse to get a registration card or very basic things of life? How can we be a light to people? So, Paul, it's been taught by some that we are to renounce our citizenships as some sort of show of allegiance to YAHUAH alone. It sounds good on the surface because it's like, you want to, it's like on the surface, it's like people are like, show your allegiance to YAHUAH. You can no longer, be a citizen of any country. And these are some of the things people teach. Paul confirms this type of thinking to be a false interpretation. Here in Acts 21, Paul is confronted by jealous Jews and eventually Roman centurions, who are the enforcers of the law of the land, right? But Paul said, I am a man which am a Jew of Tarsus, a city in Cilicia, a citizen of no mean city, and I beseech you, suffer me to speak unto the people. And when he had given him license, Paul stood on the stairs and beckoned with the hand unto the people. And when there was made a great silence, he spake unto them in the Hebrew tongue, saying, and then this is a little bit further in this interaction, the chief captain commanded him to be brought to the castle and bade that he should be examined by scourging, that he might know wherefore they cried so against him. And as they bound him with thongs, Paul said unto the centurion that stood by him, is it lawful for you to scourge a man that is a Roman and uncondemned? When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying, take heed what you do, for this man is a Roman. Then the chief captain came and said to him, tell me, are you a Roman? And he said, yes. This is all Paul. So these are some things to consider. Paul did not renounce his Roman citizenship. So, though I do not agree with all American policies, I will follow Paul's lead in this matter. Let's not forget about Joseph, who became chief ruler over Egypt. Certainly, he would have not been a bad example to the inhabitants of the land by being disobedient to the common laws governing the land. The same can be said about Zerubbabel, Nehemiah 1-3, who was the king's cupbearer and found favor before him. Also, Joseph, husband to Mary, was subject to the Roman government. Luke 2. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, unto Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary his espoused wife, being great with child. So, speaking of taxes, we would be making a huge mistake in not echoing the master's words here. And they questioned him, saying, Teacher, we know that you speak and teach correctly, and you are not partial to anyone, but you teach the way of Elohim on basis of truth. Is it permissible for us to pay taxes to Caesar or not? But he saw through their trickery and said to them, Show me a denarius. Whose image and inscription does it have? They said, Caesar's. And he said to them, Then pay to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to Elohim the things that are Elohim's. And they were unable to catch him in a statement in the presence of the people, and they were amazed at his answer and said nothing. Brothers and sisters, though salvation is given freely, this walk of following Messiah is not given a guarantee of ease. In fact, YAHUSHA warns us several times that it would be this way, and we must endure to the end. With this in mind, we must be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Let us be blameless in the sight of YAHUAH and man, being ready for the return of our Master. Brothers and sisters, for these reasons, with the examples given, the scriptures given, I can conclude that we should obey the governments in all things, except for matters that would make us break the commandments of the Most High, or make us break words that our Messiah commanded us to do. And consider he never told us to stay away from driver's licenses and registration cards. And I just say be careful out there. There's some deceivers out there that are essentially encouraging anarchy, and that's just not the kind of people we can be. When we engage in those type of activities, It's hard for us to be a light shining on a hill. It's hard for us to be ambassadors for Messiah. So take that into consideration. Much love, blessings.
you.